Call tonight's meeting to order and ask the recorder to call the roll.
Councillor Duggar.
Here.
Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Here.
Councillor Hassan.
Present.
Councillor Kimmy.
Here.
Councillor Teeter.
Here.
Councillor Tivnon.
Here.
Mayor Beatty.
Here. All right, tonight we have a few items on our agenda. We'll have visitor comment period. Tonight are you gonna do the city manager's report? No? Okay.
No, Jenny will bring it. Everyone,
Okay.
Jenny is out sick this evening. I'm Sia Lindstrom, your assistant city manager. I'll be sitting in for Jenny tonight, and no, she'll bring it next time.
Well, we were going to pilot our newly requested city manager's report, but we will kick that to our next meeting. We have a few items on our consent agenda tonight, not very many. We'll have a public ordinance, and we will have 2 work sessions, and we have our federal and state lobbying team here this evening to do that with us. We will, however, start with visitor comment period, and as a reminder, visitor comment period is an essential part of local government and how we do business. However, to help us comply with Oregon's open meeting laws, this is a time for us to listen and not to speak back. However, if follow-up is required, our assistant city manager, Sia, or our city attorney will follow up with you. With that, I see one person and one card for in-person this evening, and it is Clyde Robinson. Clyde, when you get up, you all right, moving. We will have 3 minutes when you're up and ready to address the council.
Mayor and council members, distinguished department heads and police. My name is Clyde Robertson, and I want to thank you, first of all, for the privilege it is to be able to capture some of your time and share with you what I'm going to share. So thank you for that, and also thank each of you, because I think that your job is a challenging job, and I respect the time and the effort and the service that you put into helping the community function well, and I mean that. So my name's Clyde Robertson. I am a vet. And I live in the South County with my wife on the Shalem Mountain Bald Peak Ridge there right above Shoals. I am a Vietnam era veteran, and though I never was assigned to Southeast Asia, I was an airborne ranger, jump master qualified, and I served with some fairly elite units for most of my time through the 70s in the Canal Zone. I was the officer in charge, the non-commissioned officer in charge of a unit that was designated as the Ready Reaction Force for Central and South America. So that was my experience. I got out in '79 and then did my civilian stuff. After I retired in 2016, I had my left knee replaced at the Portland VA, which was the first time I'd had any experience with the VA. And that led me, because I was retired, to go ahead and get involved in volunteering in veterans issues. So along the way, it's been a long road, but I formed a small group called Veterans Stronger Together. It's informal. We're still fabricating the layout of it and getting our 501(c)(3), but because I'd served on the Washington County Suicide Prevention Council, we got a $20,000 grant from the Oregon Alliance to reduce suicide in the area. So we've formed a coalition. I wanted to let you know that we're out here. We appreciate what you do, and we want to work within our confines of what we're doing to help veterans to bring our skill sets that we learned in the Army or in the service with regard to teaming and accomplishing mission first and putting aside all of the minor stuff. We want to be able to do that as veterans and help the community. So we're looking to form a block of individuals, and we think it will be healthy for the individuals who are troubled as well, because we all get that principle. that service is a good thing to do. And that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson, and thank you for your service.
I'll leave some
And,
business cards as
yeah,
well.
My chief of staff is in the purple. If you could leave a card with her, that would be awesome. Yep. All right. We have 3 online members. We'll go ahead and queue up Dr. Tony Martin. Dr. Martin, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, hello. My name is Dr. Tony Martin. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, thank you very much. I am an author, and I wrote the book called The Jewish Onslaught, and I was fired from my job for this. But I would like to say that I appreciate Mr. Robinson, and I also feel his sentiment in the fact that we need to support our veterans when they're coming back from fighting these wars. And it's just a great thing that he's doing with making his charity, or there have you, because we do have the Disabled American Veterans and we have the Wounded Warrior Project, but I think that there needs to be a lot more interest, especially in our city and our county, that we can be investing in our veterans when they come back after fighting these wars in the Middle East, and that we're giving $13 million to Israel per day. I think that that money should be allocated better to be spent in our own communities instead of these conflicts that have been going on for 2,000 years. But I actually called to speak about a different incident. I've noticed that there's a lot of animal cruelty going on here, and this needs to be addressed within the PETA organization or anyone else, anybody in city council. So maybe there can be a resolution passed, because there's this practice and it is called Kapparot, and it's spelled Kapparot. And what is done is there's this group of religious people that they take chickens, and these chickens are malnourished and they're raised specifically so that they can be tortured. They're shaken around, held by their feet, and then their throats are cut and the blood is spilt. Now, these people don't even eat the chicken afterwards. It's waste. And I've seen here, they leave piles of trash bags of dead chickens in the street. And this is not okay. This is barbaric. I mean, you would think in 2023 that we would be beyond these types of practices. And this majority of this takes place during Yom Kippur, and it is believed that these people are passing their sins into the chicken, and then they just discard these chickens, these poor animals. So I think that this city needs to take a look into this. This is definitely animal cruelty, and living in America in the day and age that we are, they should not be allowed to get away with this. I mean, this is absurd. Would you not think that when birds are being slaughtered in public and then they're just left out in the street as trash and they're not even being picked up, they don't even properly discard of them, they're not eating them, so they're left to rot, and then it just makes our city just become this big pile of dead chickens. I think this is really, really a bad practice, and it needs to be outlawed in our city. So thank you very much. And go to gtvflyers.com for more.
All right, thank you. Next up is Amir Blumenfield. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, Beaverton Council. I would like to ask the city to pass a resolution denouncing the Anti-Defamation League. Now, the Anti-Defamation League was established in 1913 to protect Leo Frank. He was a pencil factory owner, and he had an employee named Mary Fagan who was working for him at the time. This is before we had established proper child labor laws in the United States of America. And she went to work one day to go and collect her pay for the week so she could help her parents buy some groceries. And Leo Frank, unfortunately, decided that'd be a great time to rape, strangle, and murder her. Now, this is only relevant because the ADL was founded on protecting Leo Frank, who tried to frame his crime, his rape and murder of a child, on a local black man, an African-American named Jim Conley, as well as another African-American man. Now, this is in Georgia in the early 1900s, The Ku Klux Klan was involved, and they didn't even believe Leo Frank. Leo Frank passed off as a white man. He was Jewish. But if the Ku Klux Klan is saying, no, this African American man didn't rape and murder this child, it was this other gentleman in the South in the early 1900s, it's very obvious who committed the crime. Now, Leo Frank was acquitted of his charges, and thankfully the citizens in his town did the right thing, formed a mob, and they took care of the problem, you know, the old Wild West way. So why is the Anti-Defamation League, you know, an organization founded on child murder and rape and pedophilia, allowed to dictate what anyone in this country says, whether they call anything hate speech? I mean, they're definitely targeting all Americans, and they're in charge of many, many police departments in our nation. They give FBI training, and they brag about the fact that they train the FBI. Why does the 2% minority have this overrepresentation in law enforcement and law enforcement training? I thought that, you know, we were a meritocracy, that people who deserve to be in positions of power earn their way there, not that we're a nepotistic nation where just because a bunch of us wear some tiny hats, we get promoted into positions of power. I find this to be very unpatriotic and very un-American. And I mean, it does explain our situation in the Middle East, why we have over 1,000 soldiers fighting for Israel instead of protecting civilians and children in Gaza fighting against Israel. So I would just like the City Council to please make note that the Anti-Defamation League is a hate organization designed and founded on child rape and pedophilia, and they should have no say in any political entity in the United States of America. All right? Thank you very much for your time. God bless you all. Good evening.
William Cooper, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, council. My name is William Cooper. Am I coming through all right?
Yep.
Great. First, I'd like to start with a couple rhetorical questions. I know we can't do a back and forth here. The first question would be, why is the practice of Metsitsa B'pa allowed in America? You can go to nyc.gov and search oral suction and oral circumcision to find out more about what I'm talking about, or you can go to GTV Flyers. That's gtvflyers.com. Another question I have is, why is the Holocaust illegal to question in 18 countries? Why have the Jews been expelled out of over 109 nations more than 1,030 times? Is it because of rampant anti-Semitism throughout the ages, or is it because of their behavior? People like Randy Fine, who is a Jewish state senator in Florida, has even spoke about this openly, that they have literally been kicked out of every place that they have ever been, that they have ever lived in. So I think I have an idea as to why this is happening to them. And if you read their holy book, the Talmud, and check out passages like Yebamoth 98a, which says all non-Jew children are animals. And I just want to say, the reason why I'm bringing this to the council is because all across America, we talk about how we're going to stand against hate and we're not going to let people be hateful and this and that. And so, you know, once I heard, I'm a Gentile. So once I heard that the Jews consider me to be an animal, that didn't really sit well with me. That feels like hate coming from them. Another one is like Baba Metzia 114b. The non-Jews are not humans, they are beasts. And Liber David 37, which says, to communicate anything to a non-Jew about our religious relations would be equal to the killing of all Jews. For if the non-Jew knew what we teach about them, they would kill us openly. So, you know, I know of some people in America that have been incarcerated for passing out flyers and leaflets. I would like the city council to put forward a resolution saying that the Constitution is the law of the land and people have the First Amendment right in Beaverton, Oregon. And, you know, because like John Minadio, he went to jail for 30 days for conspiracy to commit litter. There's a family, the Jacobs family, husband and wife in Georgia, also were arrested for passing out just pieces of paper that say 80% of Joe Biden's administration is Jewish, and that 96% of the media is controlled by 6 Jewish corporations. There's a list of people that were involved in the CDC scam, or in the COVID scam, like the CDC director, the CDC chief of staff, the Moderna chief scientist. The list goes on and on and on. So this country is ran by Semitic pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein Island. I'm sure we all know about that. So I just want to TKD, and thank you for your time.
Ursula, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Phenomenal. I just want to thank you guys for letting everyone speak. I understand that it might be difficult to listen to, but this is America, and I appreciate you respecting our First Amendment. Recently, my children were learning about something in school. They were learning about the slave trade, and there was some things said that I personally, when I was growing up and doing the same exact lessons, I was taught differently. So I decided to do some further research. And I find it odd that my children are being paraded with anti-white literature, basically blaming them, even though generationally, we're quite separated. But when I went to go do further research, I found out that every single aspect of the slave trade was Jewish. And I find it odd that my white non-Jewish children are sitting in class being talked about and pointed at by the teacher for something that they're not connected to in any way, shape, or form. You look at every single ship owner, and they were all Jewish, oddly enough. And what's crazy is that this is not new information. This has been put in books for a very long time, and not just by white people. It's not white people defending white people. There are some very wonderful Black men who have written books about this and done the legitimate research, but for some reason it's considered anti-Semitic to state, well, hey guys, it was the Jews. And I find that odd. So I decided to do some further research and as to why they're able to control, every aspect of the current chosen narrative. And that's when I found out that the media is also Jewish. It's crazy that 6 Jewish corporations own 96% of the media. That's crazy to me that such what I thought was a small group is controlling so much of our current daily life. So much so that I actually went and I looked up, well, how many Jewish people are there? Is this just straight nepotism? Am I ill-informed on how many Jewish people per non-Jewish people are around? And I found out there's just 2%. 2% of the population is controlling the media. That's crazy to me. On top of that, they controlled the entire COVID agenda was also ran by the Jews. You have the CDC director, the CDC deputy director, the chief of staff. All of them Jewish. That's insane to me. And if anyone else is curious as to the information I'm talking about, you can find it at gtvflyers.com. That is gtvflyers.com. Thank you.
All right, Judy Stoyer.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. Judy Stroyer, thanks for letting us speak here. It's kind of surprising, but not really. We should be able to speak. This is America. We all have grandfathers and forefathers who shed blood for the right to speak. There are other civil rights, too, that are important. But yeah, we'll talk about the First Amendment here. Is that what we're having a problem with across the country is that we have these stuffed shirts on these councils who think they know the Supreme Court. They think they are the Supreme Court, and they think they understand Supreme Court law and stuff like that. And these people, they're just taught in the public school district to think that a virtue signal and a pat on the back from somebody that said, hey, good job for standing up to racism. That's not the same thing as the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court actually stands and rules on things like this. So if you go ahead and look into history, you could see the First Amendment challenged many times. And every time it wins the day, and it'll win the day again But it's unfortunate these councils think some blowhard 45-year-old or blowhard boomer sitting up there thinks he is the king of the world and he's going to stop hate. Okay, you're not going to stop hate. All right, good luck with that. People hate each other. They're always going to. They always will. Free speech has been around long before people hated each other, and it's going to be around forever. The only way to make people stop hating each other is to give them a chance to get the rotten kikes out of this country so that we have a chance to get along. But you're going to leave the Jews here until the 100th Goyim, and as soon as the 100th Goyim happens, you're going to see the masses of every single white person in this country will wake up instantaneously, and you'll wonder what would happen. We're just giving you a warning ahead of time right now. You talk about the Jews and how they have this little country that they stole from the real Semites in the Middle East, and these Ashkenazi Jews that are really Turkish, Mongolian. They're not even Jews at all. They're not even connected to the Jewish bloodlines. But these kikes get to control our money and our media and our culture and everything like that. Did you know that kike means circle in Yiddish? It's keikel. It's because these rotten kikes couldn't even have a cross on their hand when they came to Ellis Island. That's how much they hate Jesus Christ. They're not hyphenated with Christianity. When you go Judeo-Christian, that's ridiculous because they're antichrist. That's the same thing as saying antichrist Christian. I mean, that's really disrespectful to hyphenate these rotten Talmudic kikes with Christians. But it happens over and over again. And you sit up there on your council and you think that you're going to keep the public safe from the white people standing up to this bully of the 2% Jew that's suffocating the white race. What you need to do is step aside and let the grandsons of the children that kept us safe keep us safe again.
Okay, thank you. We're over time. I guess this is a question for the city attorney. This isn't a name in here. It just looks like an organization.
I think anyone that wants to testify
Okay.
or make
Justice
comments.
for all.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate everything that y'all are respecting the First Amendment and all that. I heard somebody say earlier that Joe Biden's cabinet was 80% Jewish. Well, what you also got to think of is that Mr. Trump, his whole campaign funding was funded by Jews. And also here in the past couple of months, he was actually crowned with the crown of Jerusalem by the state of Israel. So Trump's just as much of influenced by Jews as Joe Biden is. And not only that, but also 9/11, there was 5 dancing Israelis that were arrested on 9/11. And not very many people know about that. And actually, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, who's currently genociding Palestinians, free Palestine, one of his quotes was, "If the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you will see is that militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center." And that was actually in his own book that he wrote called Fighting Terrorism in 1995. Also, the Federal Reserve, every single aspect of that was also, well, you can guess, the same people, Jewish. Out of the 14 Federal Reserve System chairmen, 7 have been Jews or partial Jews. This is a numerical representation of 50%, and Jews are only approximately 2% of the U.S. population. So I think this is a common theme going on in almost any type of political issue that you could think of. It seems like it's the same people responsible every single time. Also, out of the hedge fund industry, out of the top 20th, or out of the top 20 richest hedge fund managers, also 11 of them are the same people. They're of Jewish descent. You got also the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. If you look at all them out of the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, If you read them, I don't think you could pick out one that hasn't came to fruition in the past 100 years. So, yeah, it seems like a common reoccurrence of these same people out of all the problems of our nation. And every single time, every single aspect of each one is Jewish. Thank you.
All right, we are skipping the city manager's report today. We look forward to hearing Double the Awesome next week. With that, I will accept the consent agenda.
Sure, Mayor. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent this evening? Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll?
Excuse me. I've been around juniper today and I'm allergic to it. Counselor Teeter,
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy,
Yes.
Mayor Beatty,
Yes.
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Yes.
Counselor Tivnon,
Yes.
Counselor Duggar,
Yes.
Counselor Hassan.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move into our public hearing. Sorry, we're getting the scripts a little late this evening. Tonight we'll be holding a public hearing regarding case file LU 3-2023-00537 and application number CPMA 3-2023-00535 and ZMA 3-2023-00536 to assign the general commercial zone of the zoning map and to assign the regional commercial designation to the comprehensive plan map for parcel at 16290 Northwest Bronson Road, abutting the right-of-way. I now call to hear public hearing. Before we move to substance of the hearing, I will ask the city attorney to cover any preliminary legal matters.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Robin McIntyre, Assistant City Attorney. Tonight, this hearing will proceed as follows. After preliminary legal matters, the city will make a presentation, which will be limited to 15 minutes. Then members of the public will have an opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes each. Unless a majority of the council objects, we will take testimony from those who are attending in person first, followed by those who are attending remotely. The city, who is the applicant here, will then have 5 minutes for response or rebuttal. Council members may ask questions of staff or anyone else who testifies. Anyone wishing to speak at this hearing should follow the instructions included on tonight's agenda. Now I will cover preliminary legal matters. The applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the Beaverton Development Code, Comprehensive Plan, and any applicable Beaverton Code provision. The criteria that must be addressed in this hearing are Beaverton Development Code, Chapter 40.97.15.1, and Beaverton Comprehensive Plan, Section 1.5.1.a. Any testimony that speakers present must be directed at these criteria or at some other criteria in the code or comprehensive plan which the speaker believes should apply to this decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to allow the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. In addition, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Only those who submit written comments or give oral testimony will have standing to appeal this decision. So at this time, I'd like to ask if any council members wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias. Okay, I see none. Let the record show no responses. Do any council members wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts? Okay, let the record show there are no responses. Does any member of the audience wish to question the impartiality or ex parte disclosures of any council member? Okay, let the record show no responses. Does anyone wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the council to hear this matter? Okay, let the record show no responses. Mayor, that concludes the legal matters. You can proceed with the hearing.
Thank you. Let's proceed to the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
I'm Brett Cannon, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. The proposals before you tonight are a comprehensive plan map amendment and a zoning map amendment associated with project LU3 2023-00537 Bronson Road, CPA ZMA. So the proposal is a city-initiated comprehensive plan amendment to apply a city land use designation and a zoning map amendment to apply a city zoning district. Please note that this proposal does not have any specific development or uses associated with it. Quick note on the zoning history of the site as well. So due to the complexities that were associated with the implementation of House Bill 2001, the Middle Housing Bill, this application of a land use designation and zoning proceeded in 2 steps. So step 1 was zoning the site pursuant to the crosswalk that's found in chapter 1 of the comp plan via non-discretionary CPA ZMA in 2022. And then step 2 is the proposal in front of you this evening to implement the commercial land use zoning designations. So this map shows the location of the site. It's highlighted in blue. The yellow areas to the south and west are Beaverton city limits, and the gray areas to the east and north are Washington County unincorporated limits. Also want to bring attention to the inset map there to the bottom right of it. You can see that the project site's located in the far northwest portion of the city, just north of Highway 26. And then finally, the site takes access via Northwest Bronson Road and is currently developed with a single detached dwelling and some accessory structures. So first, staff will address the comprehensive plan map amendment. The comp plan and zoning district table is found in the land use element of the comprehensive plan. You can see on this slide is an excerpt from that table. It shows the city's regional commercial designation and those 4 associated zoning districts. So staff is proposing the site be assigned the regional commercial land use designation, which is highlighted in yellow. So here's the land use map, and it shows the county land use districts and the land use designations which are surrounding the site. You'll see again the sites there in the center highlighted in blue with the RC designation. It abuts the city's interim Washington County designation to the south and west, and again highlighting that Sunset Highway, Highway 26 is directly to the south. And then you'll also notice the regional commercial designation is on the south side of the highway. And then finally, Washington County's institutional designation is to the east, and there's a Washington County residential across Northwest Bronson there to the north. And so the applicable approval criteria for the comp plan amendment are the following. First, it's consistent with statewide planning goals, metro regional plans, and the city's comprehensive plan. The site currently carries the low density neighborhoods designation and is proposed to be regional commercial. A few of the reasons for regional commercial, what staff is proposing is that it has access to an arterial, which is Northwest Bethany to the east, and it's also access via a collector, which is Northwest Bronson, and then has access to Highway 26, which is nearby. Comp Plan Policy 372 states the regional commercial designation may be applied in areas along highways and those major arterials I previously mentioned. And then second, it increases the commercial opportunities of the site through the implementation of any of those corresponding zoning districts we saw on the previous slide, which is consistent with Goal 372. And finally, it's consistent with Goal 4, which encourages higher density residential development on commercially zoned sites. Therefore, staff finds the application satisfies Comp Plan Section 1.15 for a discretionary comprehensive plan map amendments. And so the zoning map amendment, the second application is to implement the zoning map amendment. This slide shows the 4 implementing, the 4 implementing zones of the regional comprehensive plan designation. And they are corridor commercial, community service, Washington Square, and general commercial. And staff proposes the site be assigned general commercial, highlighted in yellow. And then this map, the zoning map, shows the county land use districts and city zoning districts surrounding the site. Again, interim is to the south and to the west. And then to the east, we have the institutional designation of Washington County, and then the residential across to the north. And then the approval criteria for a zoning map amendment can be found in 409715. A few of the approval criteria are that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, chapters 4 and chapter 6 included, which are the housing and transportation chapters, respectively. Second, that it has availability of all critical and essential facilities. This includes public water, sanitary sewer, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, Beaverton Police, and then Beaverton School District and THPRD, Tualatin Hills Parks and Recreation. And then finally, a traffic impact analysis concluded negligible impacts to the site, only a modest increase in expected trips. No queuing issues are expected at Northwest Bronson or North or Southwest Bethany, and no signal upgrades. Therefore, staff recommends council approve ordinance 4850 and associated case files, applying the regional commercial land use designation and general commercial zone to the subject site effective 30 days after adoption of the ordinance. This concludes my presentation. I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you. Any question of staff? All right. Seeing none, we will hear testimony from the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this legal land use matter this evening? Right. There appears to be no members of the public who want to speak on this matter tonight. We will move on to comments from staff. The staff or the city attorney have any further comments or clarification regarding this application?
No further comments from staff.
Okay.
I have no further comments either.
No conflicts either? Okay. That concludes the testimony for tonight. Is there, nope, no, we don't need that. I'm sorry, this is new. All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. The council may either approve the zoning and comprehensive plan applications and adopt the proposed ordinance or take any other action. If any other action is proposed regarding the ordinance, the motion must include specific direction as to what that is. Regarding the application and the ordinance, does the council member wish to make a comment or a motion this evening?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve case file LU 3-2023-0053, application numbers CPMA 3-2023-00535 and ZMA 3-2023-00536, and adopt ordinance number 4850, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan land use map and zoning map for one parcel at 16290 Northwest Bronson Road.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on tonight's motion? Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll?
Counselor Duggar?
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy?
Yes.
Counselor Hassan?
Yes.
Counselor Teeter?
Yes.
Counselor Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Yes.
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
7-0.
All right. If you'd like to appeal this decision, you must appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals in accordance with LUBA's rules and any applicable provision in the Beaverton Development Code. All right, with that, we have a double header tonight with our state and federal legislative framework. We have Gwen Baldwin and her new partner in crime, Joel Rubin, joining us on stage. All right, this is new for us. We're appearing together, so they're here to keep us in line.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Excellent. Good evening, Council President Hartmeyer Prigg, Mayor Beatty, members of council. As you know, I am Gwen Baldwin, president of Baldwin Consulting LLC, and it is just such a privilege and an honor to be able to serve you and the citizens of Beaverton before the state, local, and regional levels of government. With me at the table tonight is Joel Rubin, a partner at CFM, the firm that leads our federal advocacy efforts. And I'd also like to introduce Ryan Gleason, who is also with CFM and is going to be helping me with advocacy in the Capitol for the 2024 session, along with her colleague, Dale Penn, who I believe is participating virtually tonight. Tonight's work session is an opportunity to discuss both the state and the federal agendas for the 2024 year. And there are two questions before you in this work session. First, do you have questions about the proposed 2024 state and federal agendas? And are there revisions that council needs before approval on January 2nd so that both Joel and I can get headed out of the gate in full speed? First, I want to start with the state legislative framework. The framework provides overall direction to government relations as we review legislation and promote the City of Beaverton's priorities with elected officials and key representatives during the 2024 short session. The framework is based on council goals and priorities, the Community Vision Action Plan, the DEI Action Plan, the Climate Action Plan, and other council-adopted plans. We work off of the 2023 legislative framework and make those revisions that are necessary to reflect current council goals and priorities, as well as leverage past successes. Speaking of those successes, you have in your packet a one-pager listing the funding that Beaverton has secured through advocacy between 2021 and 2023, which totals more than $53 million in state, regional, and federal funding, of which $1 million is currently pending. But Joel will talk about that in more detail. Those funds were secured because Beaverton has been strategic in its asks, focused in its advocacy, and government relations could draw on both the professional staff expertise and the mayor's powers of persuasion at critical moments. In shaping the state agenda, we also looked at the trends and dynamics that will drive the 2024 session as we know it. The upcoming session is just 5 weeks long, starting February 5th and ending no later than March 10th. It's a highly concentrated period of time. We know there are 3 issues that will drive those discussions in the 2024 session. The first is housing production. The governor will be proposing a significant housing production package, which will include mandatory adjustments of local regulations with the ability to opt out if you already allow those adjustments already, one-time UGB expansion for certain cities, infrastructure funding, and moderate income housing facilitation. There are other infrastructure bills being considered in the Housing and Water Committees and an increased awareness that without infrastructure, system and site-specific, needed housing cannot be built. The other major policy issue is Measure 110 reform. The open drug and addiction human crisis in communities across the state has drawn the attention of every policymaker. The Special Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety Response has been considering reforms to Measure 110 and continues to meet at a fast pace, including yesterday. The DAs, sheriffs, police chiefs, and the League of Oregon Cities have signed on to a reform proposal that will include funding and the use of specialty courts, like Beaverton has, to provide treatment detox facility funding with 72-hour holds and adding Class A misdemeanor charges for public use and possession to incentivize treatment and specialty court paths. Successful completion of treatment programs will result in expunged records. Last but never least, the funding factor. There is a large ending balance of just over $1 billion, $655 million above the May 2023 forecast. The revised December forecast indicates that lawmakers will have $217 million more available than the 2-year $32 billion spending plan they just budgeted 6 months ago. The next revenue forecast is scheduled for February 7th, 2 days after the start of the 2024 session. And all budget decisions in the session will be based on those February 7th numbers. So, bearing this all in mind and based on feedback from the November Council one-on-one meetings, I'm proposing a few changes to the draft 2024 legislative framework in your package. First, I want to add language to the City Finance and Operations section of the framework that would say, support policy or funding that facilitates organizational diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives and promote immigrant and refugee integration. That clearly was a message that came out of the council retreats and was something that I've heard individually as we discussed things over the November one-on-ones. And it also fits very, very well, again, with the conversations that you've been having in focusing and perhaps later on this evening. Second, also in the city finance and operations section, add language to oppose unfunded mandates with significant impact on city goals or operations. We have a very tight budget situation, and while one person's unfunded mandate is another person's you should be doing this anyway, policy and policy requirements have costs. And so if it is a significant impact, I think we want to be in a position to say this is untenable at this time. Finally, I would like to add language to the traffic safety bullet in public health and safety section of the framework to cover the needed tweaks to the fixed photo radar statutes to be more explicit, so that it would be community safety and active transportation with more local control of traffic calming and enforcement options. So the question on the state side is, do you have questions about the revised proposed 2024 legislative framework, and are there additional revisions that council needs to approve that the council needs before approval in January on the state legislative agenda? And I'm happy to answer any of those questions now before we go into the federal one.
Any questions? Councilor Teeter.
Thanks, Gwen. I have two questions. In last year's legislative agenda, there was a point in the infrastructure and economic development section that wanted to support state funding to upgrade state-owned highways to city quality facilities. And that's not on this list, and I'm just wondering, is that because it's a short session and it's less likely to get funding there, or is there a different reason that was on your mind for that?
There are two reasons. One, it is a short session and it's not likely to get funded. It tends to be the type of thing that's funded in a long session. And the second is a reason you're very familiar with. A jurisdictional transfer task force was set up, and congratulations on being the vice president of that august body. And I think that they really want to take the time to do a very methodical approach to the resources being allocated for jurisdictional transfer. And so it doesn't make sense to jump that gun, particularly with your deep involvement.
Okay, thanks. So my second question, but just to follow up on that real quick for the council's information, I'm going to touch on this more in council new business, but it's related to the Jurisdictional Transfer Advisory Committee. I'm serving on that, been nominated as vice chair, so I can fill you in more details later on in the meeting. So Gwen, back to you. In the land use, sustainability, and housing section, I'm just wondering if we should include a natural resource component about either Cooper Mountain Nature Park or creek restoration or water. Is there an opportunity there we might be missing out by not calling it out specifically, or is there anything you think we should know there?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I think that we have a lot of language that it sort of wraps around those issues. I think if we're specific about calling it out and there isn't a window of opportunity because it's not clear what those windows are, we don't want to be sort of hung up on that. We do have plenty of things around local control, around making sure we have sustainable neighborhoods and communities, and we have an emphasis on that state funding for infrastructure, and that is such a huge part of what will make Cooper Mountain a success, both in terms of the housing production that is being planned there, but also in terms of recognizing the incredible natural resources that move through there as well.
Okay, thank you. I've just got natural resources at the top of my mind because it's one of our council priorities over the past couple weeks. But that's all my comments. Thank you, Gwen.
You bet.
Councillor Hudson.
Just a quick question. When this was first published, I was like, I think something's missing, and you did share the revision. Could you read that one more time just so I can hear it? I had asked for something specific to welcoming immigrants and refugees in case there was any legislation, and it's not on here, but she read it, and I wanted to hear it one more time.
Of course. Support policy or funding that facilitates organizational diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives and promotes immigrant and refugee integration.
Thank you.
Councilor
Duggar. I suspect this is going to probably be the same answer for Councilor Teeters. It's probably a long session, but I've seen a couple reports in the media, in the Portland area media, around, and they're heartbreaking stories around civil commitment people. So is there any, do you think there's any realistic opportunity for, in the short session, for there to be any changing of existing statutes beyond immediate harm for people in mental health crisis or anything like that? Because that's a public, I don't know if it's a priority of mine. It's something I'm really interested in. Reading the stories are pretty heartbreaking. And I just want to equip as many tools as for our caregivers and police department as possible for people in beyond just that imminent harm, right? And so I didn't know if you've heard any sort of movement or potential, or is that probably going to be like a long year? Because I would imagine that's a pretty complicated conversation.
Yes to all the above. I think the reality is that it's a very complicated issue. It may wait until the 25 session, and it's also definitely a part of the conversation related to Measure 110 reform. And so as they build that package and they look at how they really create that wraparound holistic approach to evaluating how Measure 110 might be revised, I think a component of that is the civil commitment issue. It may end up being in a different committee than the joint committee that is looking at Measure 110 reform specifically. But I look at that as a piece of that package. As you know, cities are everything, and at the same time, there are jurisdictional differences about who has ultimate responsibility for things. And so I try to keep us from having too much scope creep and jurisdictional creep while recognizing that it's really hard to tease these things apart, right? And so the Measure 110 placeholder is really intended to do that. And some of that, as you know, as a general rule, I come back after the session starts with the priority bills that reflect this framework. This is my lens to work through and evaluate the bills that most reflect and reach this framework once you adopt it. So that's a time where I will definitely be coming back in early February to have a conversation about these are the bills and this is what's in and what's not in.
Yeah, I would hesitate to even ask us to add that because one of the reasons it's been so successful is it's been really focused, but it is a passion of mine. So if you could just keep me up to date and let me know where I can personally help.
Absolutely, happy to do that.
I would really appreciate that. And fantastic work, as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Council President.
Thank you. Gwen, I just wanted to answer the questions you posed to us. Is now the time you want that, or did you want us to save that till?
No, let's
now
get the
good?
state done so that Joel can have
perfect
latitude on feds.
I definitely support adding in both of your proposed recommendations to the agenda. I think it's reflective of council goals, and we've, as a council, been trying to keep ourselves focused on priorities, and we're very intentional about adding to staff workload, and we know that some of our own priorities as a council have been had to be set aside because of some of the mandates coming from the state, without the funding, without the staff, without support to get it done. So I think those are super important. I'd love to see those included. And I also just want to echo what Councilor Duggar said around, I think the focus has been instrumental in Beaverton being successful. I know that you mentioned a $50+ million influx of money that has come to Beaverton in the last few years from all levels, including our federal work, but that I think is really because of the targeted focus of priorities. So I also just want to say thank you. I think Beaverton shows up really strong. I think that Beaverton is respected as a player in the space of influence and because we're looking out for our community, and you're a big part of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Tivnon.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Shower you in praise. Thank you for representing us so well at the state and federal level. And thank you for staying so in tune with the changing priorities that we have been focusing on as we're kind of keeping track of where the world is, where our budget is, where the needs are. No changes in addition to what you've proposed tonight, fully in support of those updates. And Yeah, thanks. Go represent us as awesomely as you always do.
Councilor Kimmy.
Thank you, Gwen. How is Mandu?
Mandu is doing
Mandu's
very
good?
well, thank
Okay.
you.
It's her dog's name. Yeah. And
He has a picture over at Brick House on the wall if anyone wants to see him.
Thank you for all that you're doing. It's wonderful to see all the money coming to Beaverton. I know Mayor has been instrumental, and she's being very loud, vocal advocate for Beaverton. Just wondering about that surplus that the state's going to get, close over $1 billion. How can we get some portion of that? That's my question. What are the updates and how you're working on that? Because
Yes.
just small portion of that could be wonderful for Beaverton. So
No
that's
doubt.
number one. Number two, I would love to get updates on Measure 110, because it is impacting our city and everybody's conscious of it. I would like to see a quick response, but I know how government might take some time. But do we have anybody in that committee from Beaverton working on it? Because I'd love to talk to whoever that is and tell them what's really going on at the local level.
Sure. The co-chair of the committee is Senator Lieber. So Beaverton is very well represented at the very top of that joint committee. In addition, Representative Haitham is also very involved in the behavioral health space. Both Senator Lieber and Representative Pham recently attended the behavioral health court session with the mayor and with Judge Britton, along with Juliana Wallace of the governor's office, who's her lead in behavioral health. So we really do have, I think, good avenues to be able to share what's really happening on the ground in Beaverton. So that's on the Measure 110 side and that. In terms of the money, I'm always going to go hard down there to see what is possible. I think that in terms of the sort of amplification and leverage, being able to get an avenue into infrastructure dollars, particular for Cooper Mountain, is catalytic. It just unlocks thousands and thousands of units of housing, and really ensures that we have also the natural resources protection in that area with all the streams and the topography. It's a challenging bit of land, as you know. You've worked through the planning of it, and the infrastructure is key. So that is that, and if there are resources that are going out for specialty courts related to Measure 110 reforms, I want to make sure that Beaverton is at least in the hunt. They may be doing some kind of seed funding or grant out of that as opposed to a big funding stream. That will probably wait until 25. But again, I would say those two pieces are the ones that will be most advantageous.
Just a little follow-up with that is that I want to make maybe the residents know that even though state is having a lot of surplus, as a city, in every cities in the Oregon, we're suffering financially because of our property tax law. So I'd like to work with the mayor and whomever to, we have to make the cities work for where people live and people dine, and that's where we send them to school. But when all the cities are suffering financially, I think state is about time they should do something about it. So I'd like to make the comment on that.
Thank you.
I believe Councilor Kimmy stole my talking points from the WEA meeting yesterday. A way to rearrange it and make it sound like your own thoughts. That's what it's like being a woman, just so you know. But, Gwen did send out in the IOI that the league last week did a briefing on Measure 110. None of our council attended. So, sometimes the best avenue for you guys to get the information is to attend what's publicly available. So I definitely encourage you guys to do that. Gwen is one mere human trying to bounce around between multiple meetings. I called her in the middle of it, and she was watching another meeting on another computer. So some of this legwork we have to do on our own for issues that are incredibly important to you. Of course, thank you for all the work that you do with us in Salem. Short sessions are short, but they're very intense, and we have to move really quickly, and we have a lot less control. As you know, they get 2 bills each. The governor's released what she's working on, which is our our goals align really well. That's where the surplus of the money is going to go. It's going to go to what the governor wants it to do, and she's going to browbeat people in Salem to get it. So it behooves us to align our agenda with what she's trying to do. That's how we unlock money. And I think Gwen's really good at helping us navigate in those spaces. All right, Joel, beat that.
It's a tough act to follow, but thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President, Council. Joel Rubin with CFM Advocates. I usually come back here around December every year. I think I did it virtually last year to give you an update on some of the successes that we've had in Congress and with the administration on the funding side and the policy side. And kind of that's what part of the purpose of tonight's presentation is, but also to look at your 2024 agenda and project items. To give you another touch, we talked about them during our one-on-one meetings, but give you another opportunity to take a look at those and ask any questions. All right. So tonight, like I said, talk about the successes, the 24 draft agenda, and then look a little bit forward to 2024 in terms of what we anticipate in Congress and in the White House. So as you all know, Beaverton has been extremely successful at securing federal funding through the CDS process, which is earmarks, and through the grant process. In 2022, we were able to secure $9 million for multiple projects, including the Loop, shelter. Senator Merkley, Senator Wyden, Congresswoman Bonamici were just instrumental in getting these resources to the city of Beaverton. And as has been mentioned before, the mayor has done a tremendous job coming back to Washington, D.C. and advocating specifically for those projects, but also advocating back here, and I know you all have done that as well, with district staff and when the members of Congress are out here talking about these projects, making sure that they know that this is a priority for the city and why they're important to you all and your residents. In 2021, we're able to secure over $32 million in resources in water infrastructure, nonprofit business incubator, the PRCA, through a grant program, and the behavioral health court. And then right now in 23, we have some projects. The reason they're in yellow is because they're pending. We have a $1 million CDS request from Congresswoman Bonamici for the Loop, so another round of funding for the Loop project. And then we have 2 pending grant requests for a brownfield assessment grant for $500,000 and an aquifer storage and recovery project for $4.5 million. Oh, was that not on? Oh. So in summary from 2023, we have some successes that are pending, but we typically know around this time whether those are going to be locked in, but the Congress has taken a little bit longer to get their budget passed, and I'll talk about that on the next slide, when the timing looks like for that. And we're hoping to have those projects locked in early 2024. The projects that we've talked about in our 101s range from housing projects to economic development to water infrastructure to public safety. And we've talked through many of these items, but I wasn't sure if there was any additional projects that you all had in mind that we would want to add to your federal agenda. This is a draft agenda where it's a living, breathing document, but we do like to have council endorse it in January, so then the mayor can come to Washington, D.C. and bring these priorities to the congressional delegation and advocate for them specifically. I believe this is a nice, robust list of projects. There is one recent one that's come to our attention from city staff, the Laurelwood Sidewalk Project, which is a safe routes to schools, safety project, mobility project, bike ped improvements. That I think that Congresswoman Salinas would be very interested in. And it's a project that's on your CIP, but they just didn't have enough money to fund it. It's about $1.5 million short in funding, which is a good funding level for a CDS request. So that is one project that I would want to bring in front of council and see if that's something we can add to your federal agenda for 2024.
I would just say on that topic, and take questions at the end, one of the reasons we're coming to that is, we're split into 2 congressional districts, and we got to present projects in her actual district. And so otherwise she's not going to be inclined to be spending her district money on parts of the other thing. So I think it's a good ad, and I think she's looking at doing something for Beaverton, so this could be a real win.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions on the projects before I go into the kind of congressional preview and projections? So we have an interesting Congress that we're working on right now. We went through a speaker's race in October of this year, where we replaced Speaker McCarthy with Speaker Johnson, who is overseeing an extremely narrow majority in the House of Representatives. Republicans currently have a 3-seat majority. They had a 4-seat majority until Friday or Thursday when they kicked out Representative Santos from New York. But they need to get a budget done by January 19th and February 2nd. There's 2 tranches of appropriations bills that have the deadlines, and if those bills aren't passed by then, we'll have partial government shutdowns. The reason why that's important is, one, there's a lot of programmatic funding investments that is important to the city of Beaverton for transportation, public safety, infrastructure, just the range of budget items, but also your $1 million CDS request for the loop is included in that budget as well. So we want to get Congress to finalize that budget package in early 2024. We also have tight margins in the Senate. There's a 1-seat majority, Democratic majority in the Senate. So between the 3-seat majority in the House and the 1-seat majority in the Senate, we don't expect that many major pieces of legislation to get through in 2024, but that's okay. The reason that's fine is because in 2021 and 2022, Congress passed and the President signed the infrastructure package, which is a bill that lasts until 2026. So there's pretty much guaranteed funding for all of the infrastructure priorities that the city is going to be seeking funding for through the grant process. In addition to that, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the largest climate bill that's ever passed in the country, passed Congress in 2022, and there's going to be 5 or 10 years, depending on the program, of guaranteed funding for those climate policies. Many of those provisions are going to be approved by the Treasury Department within the coming weeks or months that will give the city additional opportunities through tax credits, which is kind of rare for a municipal government to be able to take advantage of a tax credit, but it was written into the bill so cities and counties could take advantage of investments in renewable energy. So we're waiting on those final rules from Treasury for you all to take advantage of some of those opportunities. There's a number of grant programs that are going to be on the street in 2024 as well. So as we look at your climate action plan, and we're going to be marrying that up with these programs that come on the street, we may be making some changes to your federal agenda to add those projects to your agenda as well. So we'll keep you posted, and I'll probably come back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's one-on-ones or council presentation, to maybe summarize some of those Inflation Reduction Act programs, and as we talk to your staff, try to put together some competitive projects for you all to take advantage of. In addition to those funding options, there are the CDS projects, congressionally directed spending, so those will be available again in 2024. Congress is also dealing with a number of supplemental funding packages that are trying to do it all in one, which is funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, funding for disaster relief, and the border wall. Those seem to all be coming and gelling together into one package. They're going to have a really difficult time doing it, but I was just mentioning that because it's probably going to be front and center and could have implications for the broader budget that's being discussed as well. And lastly, on the elections, as I mentioned, the Republicans control the House by a 3-seat majority. Democrats control the Senate with a 1-seat majority today. Most folks in D.C. think that's going to flip, where the Democrats take over the House of Representatives and the Republicans take over the Senate. The Senate this year is a good map for Republicans. Democrats are contesting a lot of very Republican states, and they're going to have a tough time keeping the Senate. But at the same time, Democrats are feeling good about the House of Representatives. And then on the presidential side, this is going to just start eating up all of the attention in Washington, D.C., where we have President Biden running and the likely nominee of the Democratic Party, and former President Trump running and the likely nominee of the Republican Party. And I just mentioned that 70% of the country isn't too happy about either of these candidates, but we'll see what happens at throughout 2024. It's going to be a fascinating race to watch, and it's going to really determine a lot of the budgetary implications, both in the Congress and with the White House race in 2024. So we're obviously keeping a close eye on that as well. With that, I'll stop there and see if there's any other questions. I know we addressed some of the project items. I wasn't sure if there was anything else the council was interested in.
just that the U.S. Conference of Mayors will be convened on January 19th, so make it happen. All America's mayors will be there to help get the budget over the line.
Yes, perfect timing.
There appears to be no questions. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councilor Teeter.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just speak up and say that I would support adding the Laurelwood sidewalk. I think it'd be great if we could get multiple projects approved. Otherwise, I would support the list that we've got before us, and thank you for the work.
Council President.
I second that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for presenting tonight. I look forward to working our agenda at the state and federal level, and let's keep on the good work. And just to make sure we are your favorite, right, Joel?
100%.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to our second presentation of the evening, Agenda Bill 23232. Jenny is not here, so Sia is taking over, and it looks like Sarah Singer-Wilson is making a second appearance before the Beaverton City Council this month.
Great. And as Sarah gets settled, I'll just lead off and then hand it to her. We do have a PowerPoint presentation that we'll be pulling up here in just a minute, but just to let you know a couple of the outcomes that we're looking for out of this work session discussion. We had a really great workshop, 2-day with Council and Sarah Singer-Wilson and many of our department heads who are here in the room back in November. So we're going to do a recap of that. We're going to review the strategic goal framework. Sarah will walk us through that and present some of the council-directed changes that you all developed coming out of that. And then look a little bit at next steps and timeline for adoption of those goals and priorities. And it looks like we have the PowerPoint up. And we can go quickly. We need snacks for this presentation. That's good. And if we could go ahead and advance to the next slide. So this slide just gives you that quick outline of the outcomes that we're looking for out of this session tonight that I just walked you through. Next slide. I'll do this quickly, and then I'll be handing it off to Sarah to take it from here. So as I mentioned, we had a really excellent council retreat, November 9th through 10th. And just as a reminder, during that retreat, we did several things. You all got a status update on the current year council goals and priorities. We looked at some key topics, including the city's fiscal outlook, our rules of procedure, boards and commissions. You also got a great update from our department head team on kind of organizational updates. And then we spent some time breaking into small groups to look at goals and priorities for the next couple of years. So with that, Sarah is going to start us on that recap. And Sarah, add anything you'd like to that slide before you take it to the next one. Oh.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to be back to wrap up this work and hopefully get you guys set on your path towards achieving these priorities that you set. I just want to start by talking about the goal framework. So we had a lot of discussion at the workshop, and it was more of a goal refinement versus a goal setting. And I think with your change in government, your process and your framework, it's evolving and maturing to meet both the needs of the council, the community, and the organization. And I think there's two really important things to consider in the framework. One is that those goals that you see above, the strategic goals, the 8 strategic goals there, those really help to provide direction to the organization. And so the strategic goals, they give staff a chance to do work planning. It provides them with some stability for the organization. And so the work plan that Jenny was presenting from at the workshop really highlights all of the work that's happening to help achieve those 8 strategic goals. The city council priorities, so that second important thing in the framework, it really allows the framework to be nimble because you have changing elected bodies. every couple years, elections happen, and you need to provide an opportunity in your framework for those new council priorities to come through. And so that's really those 4 council priorities that you see at the bottom. And the idea in this framework is that you would have regular updates through the city manager's report. So when Jenny shares that report with you, she'll make sure that anything that's happening in these 4 priority areas are highlighted for the council, in addition to doing like a more formal quarterly report. So that's the intent there with this framework. So to just talk a little bit about what's included in the goals and what changed since we last saw the council in November. So at the top, the strategic goals, we changed the language from welcoming community to be inclusive community. So that was one of the changes that was highlighted there for those 8 goals. And then the strategic priorities, we took all of the input that you shared at the workshop and just refined the language. So you have those 4 with the definitions below. So diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And defining that would be explore, understand, and address the multicultural needs. And the example highlighted there that the council shared was the Multicultural Center. The second priority was community and organizational well-being, so implement strategies to support a thriving community and organization. You guys had a lot of conversation around your governance work, boards and commissions, public engagement, leveraging partnerships. So all of that is captured under that second priority. And then the third one, financial recovery. You've been doing a lot of work in this area to make sure you've got stability and sustainability for your organization and community into the future. And so the definition here is to implement strategies to support fiscal health and recovery. And then the last one, natural resources. There's lots of work that Jenny provided an update on around that's happening in the organization under environmental sustainability. You guys had a lot of discussion around your tree code, and so the definition here for natural resources is to facilitate and implement initiatives to conserve natural resources and reduce energy consumption, and to keep that work moving forward. So these are policy level goals that allows the staff to really have some flexibility to think about how to best leverage your resources to implement these things. And so the idea tonight here is to see if you have any additional changes to the strategic goals, if you want to modify any of those 4 priority areas, or the descriptions. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions for you or see where we need to make any adjustments.
Well, I'll kick it off. I think this is pretty reflective of what we discussed, and I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see. Council President.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for coming back and working with us. I think what's been really cool is to kind of see the journey that we went on, and to see, like, having you for consistency with us, I think was really helpful to get us to kind of go on the journey of like how we mature as a council too. So I'm really happy to see like where we landed, that we are continuing a lot of our strategies and priorities, but we've refined them to give staff what they need to keep us at the level that we should be at. So I'm really, really happy with where it landed. And I love that we kind of adjusted our language to really reflect what our intention was too. So I have no edits. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, and just want to thank you and staff, because I think there's a lot of guidance through that conversation that happened with us. And thank you all for being willing to, kind of like see where we were in the moment, right? And know that we needed to meet our city where we're at. And so I think that this is a really good reflection of that.
Councillor Husson.
Yeah, thank you. I actually really liked I think it's 2023, like our big things, and I think 3 out of 7 of us were there. So I think Councillor Tivnan, Mayor Beatty, and I got to be a big part of that. And then to see us be able to refine, I want to take a moment and like say how proud I am that we were able to refine. I feel like, Councillor President, I heard you say like we all ran on different things, and a lot of those things aren't necessarily showing up. So not that we are not a criticism on anyone, just, trying to be as nimble as possible. So I really support these priority areas. I did want to just make a couple comments more for Jenny and or Sia, just so that I can put them on the record. When I think of organization and community well-being, I really am hoping that we are looking at like employee wellness and how our employees are doing and taking care of them, and balancing their needs with the needs of our community. And then when I think of fiscal recovery, I think of ways to find more money. I just want to put that again on record. I acknowledge that might not be as easy as we think, but I know we're going to go in a really difficult budget year, and I just want to kind of go on record that I hope that as staff continues to be scrappy, which I know we appreciate, we're also thinking about what decisions we need to make. And then if there are bigger policy decisions around conversations with budget, that we're able to, as a council, have those discussions so that we can be prepared for them, so that we're a little more prepared this time around with budget. So no changes, but thank you so much, and super proud of the work we've done here. Thanks.
Councillor Teeter.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I've got one change I would like to add, and it's one word in the natural resources section. I would love to add the word restore, where it says facilitate and implement initiatives to conserve natural resources. I would just love to say conserve and restore, so there's a little bit of building back what we might have lost. But otherwise, I'll speak personally. Leaving this council retreat, I felt much better personally this year than I did last year, and I think part of that's just me learning my own role better as a counselor and sticking to the higher level strategic side of things and trusting staff with the implementation of all of that. So Sarah, thank you for guiding us through this process. I think we are growing as a council and we're finding our flow, and I think that's really good. I do really like Councillor Husson's points about thinking about employee wellness, and I think some of that could fall in with the belonging section as well, and just making sure we've got that quality work environment and workforce. But I support this, and I think it's really well done, so thank you.
Councillor Duggar. I'm sorry, I was thinking about your last name. I was like, what did I do?
I'm going to echo everything. I won't say it, but I will say I think there's one missing word in the priorities, and I think it belongs in community and organizational well-being. And it's kind of, because it's in the goals, but it's not in the priorities, and that's safety. When I think about the things that I consistently hear from people, it's safety in one form or the other. We remove traffic safety or safe streets, but I think it belongs here. I don't know if that's just a description change, just to clarify that. Implement strategies to support a safe and thriving community and organization. Something, I don't think it needs to be drastic, but and then I would echo what Councillor Teeter said on the restoration. I think that's a strong point. And I was trying to figure out what word was missing there. I think I could live with that. So that would be my feedback. Thank you for this. It's really good. And I'll say one more thing. This feels much more correctly aligned. The last one felt a little project, like a project list. This one feels like a priority and a strategic goal list. So thank you for kind of herding us cats to that direction.
Councillor Tivnon.
I echo everything that's been said, and I really appreciate those two suggested additions, so I could support those. First thing I want to say is I love the way this is laid out. I think it's a lot easier for people who are not familiar with them to understand the difference between goals and priorities, and frankly, for me, too, about 6 months from now, when I'm dusting off my recollection of the whole again, because I think that's one of the things I've learned in doing this job is we move at a very fast clip, and sometimes you have to refer back to remember exactly what direction, the speed, the depth, and all of that. So I appreciate that. I left the retreat feeling very hopeful and focused. I appreciated the time and how things went. I really loved that our city staff were sprinkled in a shared environment. I felt like we got a whole lot done in a very effective manner, so thank you for that. And the thing that comes to mind for this is, and I think I was talking to you about this a few days ago, is there's these terms that very often get siloed into labels. And if we just go back to the root meaning of each of them, I think that's what we achieved here, which is progress, moderation, and conservation. And I really appreciate that. And I feel like we uncovered some really good stuff together. So I appreciate all of you, appreciate our city staff, and I'm fully in support of supporting the goals and priorities that we all worked up together. Thank you.
Councillor Kimmy.
Yeah, I mean, like, same for me, but I'm thank you for dealing with us, 7 strong-minded people. That takes a lot of skill and energy to do so. And having baby at the same time, that's something that I could never do. But question is this a disco ball? Community wellness and fun at the top? I was just looking at it. Oh, yeah? Wow, okay. Yeah.
It does kind of reflect a disco ball, but
Okay,
I think it could also, reflect a sun maybe.
Right,
So
okay.
something shiny.
One thing I wanted to add was even though we are focused on financial recovery and resiliency, but I think we should focus on economic prosperity also. It's on our 7 goals on the top, or is it 8? And if it's possible, I'd like to add that into the financial recovery, where implement strategies to support physical health, recovery, and prosperity. Because I think we are so focused on just recovery, which means our focus will be cutting, saving, trying to balance the budget, but we cannot neglect that we have to prosper. And I'd like to see later on when the city manager comes and give us a plan, I'd like to also see the plan of how we can prosper and economically, because that's a crucial part of our sustainability for the future. So I don't know if it's on your purview, but I'd like to see that in the future.
I was just thinking that I have a different definition of the word recovery. As a prior NCAA coach, like, I think about recovery as like getting better and building back, not necessarily cutting. I don't think I ever took the field and said, we're here for recovery today, please cut off things. So, but if the wish of the council, of course, like, economic prosperity is something we talk about quite often. So maybe it can go under the disco ball to make him happy. We're here for it. This was my 11th council retreat, and just how we have done things in the past till now has been dramatically different. And I think we took a great step towards what the voters wanted when they voted for this form of government with this particular goals. I think it's going to empower our staff to deliver things for us on our behalf. It's less micromanaging, and I think it's going to give them the freedom to kind of move through things. And, we've added some changes for the city manager reporting back to us. We've added some changes to our boards and commissions she's going to take over and do. And so I suspect next year will be better. My only complaint is not for you, it's for Sia. Last year when I asked you for a hugely big sign of our council priorities, it needs to be at least 2.5 times that size. That's like a council sign for ants. Like, make it bigger this year. So hugely big, not a poster. We need them on the wall so we can celebrate. And as a reminder to the council, when we're making decisions, we need to see them out in front of us. So thank you for joining us tonight. We'll let you get home to your cute baby. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll get these updates captured and over to Jenny. So
yeah, and formatted to be printed on a hugely big sign.
I'm going to send it in many formats, as big as I can send it. So.
And we do have an in-house print house, so I think it should be easy.
And Mayor, there is just one final slide with next steps. I think you all have probably read it, but just for the sake of the viewing audience.
So yeah, put up, like, we just had all our kumbayas, but
I
go
know
back,
we
one more
did,
step.
right?
Okay.
Just one more step. And just Jenny wanted to make sure that you all had on your radar screen that in early winter, this 2024, that we would develop and present a work plan for implementation of these priorities, right? Getting them done. And that there is going to be a boards and commissions analysis and work plan development here. So next steps are coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I also think, okay, we're on to council new business. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us tonight. I will just say that Jenny is not allowed to ever be absent for a meeting again, because in her absence, every time we get Zoom bombed. So I'm not going to say those are directly related to each other, but like she's suspiciously absent both times it happened. So and the chief specifically said she didn't want to come tonight. So I don't know if they knew, but it seems like it. And so this feels like hazing of the assistant city managers to me. So let's do a stop to that. Councilor Teeter.
Thanks. I just have one thing for council new business. I was appointed to the state committee for the Jurisdictional Transfer Advisory Committee. We had our first meeting just a week or so ago, and I was nominated to be the vice chair for that committee. Sarah Anarone with the Street Trust is the chair. This committee is tied to Ben Bowman's bill that was studying and recommending jurisdictional transfers, potential jurisdictional transfers. So that's ODOT state roads across the state that could be improved and transferred over to local control. Hall Boulevard is the one that Ben Bowman really has in mind a lot, Representative Bowman. We've got TV Highway here. There's these roads all across the state. So this committee is going to be putting together a set of criteria for scoring how you can evaluate what might be really worthwhile transfers across the state, and then recommending a set of 2 or 3 to the state legislature for funding. Now, all of this is pretty fresh, and we're still kind of learning more about the process and next steps. But I've talked with Jenny and Gwen and the mayor, and I'll keep you all updated as we keep going forward with this, because it could be really great for Beaverton, but I want to make sure we keep everybody in the loop.
You can't talk to too many of us, but I do suggest that you talk to the council president who's been serving on the HOPE steering committee. That is the road that is our #1 choice for interjurisdictional transfer. And there's a long history of work that we've done at the federal and state level to try to get that road up to that. So
great.
That will give you your last person you could talk to.
Perfect. We'll get together very soon.
I just gave you homework too. Councilor Husson.
Yeah, I am doing something. I checked with the city attorney today, and I know that in the last meeting I talked about a potential resolution and our statement from our city council. And in the last meeting, I think there was just some like, okay, yeah, we're not sure, kind of thinking about it. And so in the last 48 hours, I thought, well, what would I want to hear? And taking off my council hat, as a Muslim woman who has been dealing with quite a bit of stuff, I thought, what would I want to hear as a Muslim? And a lot of this started because our community center, as most of you know, had received a pretty alarming message. And in that moment, I knew that if there's hateful acts against Muslims, there's likely hateful acts against our Jewish friends, who I deeply care about, both Muslims and Jewish, and anyone in our community. And because I've been in the front row seat for our community navigating incidents and issues, I haven't been able to be super present as a counselor. So I spoke to the city attorney, who advised me that while we do not do walk-on resolutions at this moment, and I understand why, and since we do not have a procedure for walk-on resolutions, I went ahead and drafted a resolution that I was hoping y'all could read and potentially, if you feel comfortable, direct Sia and or Bill to bring back to the next meeting. I'm not expecting a major discussion here today. I'll go ahead and pass it out. I know Sia and Bill have copies, okay. And we'll make sure that the city recorder gets one. You will see X's in part of this resolution. Those are paragraphs that I was like, hey, if you're feeling like this is too much or too strong, I'm comfortable removing those. I'm also open to other language edits should you feel comfortable. I will let you know that I did not write this alone, and I took some notes from previous resolutions, so this is not just straight from my authoring. The first 3 paragraphs are from a former resolution that the mayor might know about from a couple years ago. So I will kind of pass it over to Sia to see if she wants to share anything specific to you all, but my ask is having the city manager or city team bring this back to us next Tuesday. I would be lying if I told you that I know both Muslim and Jewish communities are very much impacted by what's happening. And I understand that maybe we do not make statements around international issues, and I can understand that if that's something y'all are not comfortable with, but we cannot deny the impact of what's happening there is not happening here. And for those who are new today, I do know that our former Diversity Advisory Board member lost 39 people in an airstrike several weeks ago. And I know there was recently an article about a Jewish family who had family members that were held hostage. So I will let Sia share some words unless you want me to kick it to the council.
We would just look for clear direction from council on the procedure you'd like to use, whether you'd like this brought back for discussion next week or not. And Bill can also advise you on procedure for doing that if that's something that you'd like brought back next week.
What I'm looking for is for affirmative votes to support a resolution coming back. Do we have 4 votes? Okay. I don't think there's votes to bring this resolution to the council. Does anyone want to talk on it? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Hudson, for bringing this forward. I think not having a chance to read it and digest in advance makes it hard for me to say what I'm willing to do. And we did talk a couple weeks ago just about like our community is hurting, we are hurting, like, and as a particular recognition that, you know, religious members of our community and the Islamic faith and the Jewish faith may be hurting even more, you know, just with how hard this all is. I still have a really hard time knowing where I fit as a city councilor to talk on international issues, so I'm just not sure yet. I need to like read it to say whether or not I'd be comfortable.
Oh, so just to clarify, I'm not asking us to vote on this. I'm asking us to ask it to come back to us and for us to be able to give feedback. I'm not asking for anyone to say yes to what's here.
Yeah, and
this is a draft.
I'm clarifying if council wants it to come back. Not one councilor can direct staff. 4 of us have to direct them to come back, and so you would need 4 votes to have that happen, and that's what I'm searching for tonight. Councilor Tifnon.
Thank you. I have been thinking about this a lot since you brought it before council, and there were several things. And ATRAC also emailed us with a request that we consider several different items, including a moment of silence, including just acknowledging exactly what you're talking about, all the way up to demanding a ceasefire. And this is conversations that are playing out all over the country in cities and in other local and municipal county jurisdictions. It's also being held in the streets. And there's a lot going on around this that seems to be evolving and changing every day in the media. And I don't imagine that there's anyone in this room tuning in or anyone in our community that isn't affected by this in one way or another, emotionally, mentally. As far as doing a resolution on it, and having not read it, I don't have a stance to be able to say how I feel or don't feel about it, but there is one thing that I know I can say pretty clearly, and I thought about it quite a while, and I hope everyone will bear with me if I just read it into the record, because my thoughts were swimming around this, and I wanted to be as clear as I could because I think that the conversation deserves that, and I know that there's a lot of people that are feeling very marginalized, excluded, hurt on all sides of this. So these were my thoughts on it. I turned 45 a few weeks ago and was contemplating the fact that for every day I've been alive, there has been war and conflict, violence, and innocent lives lost, occurring somewhere on our planet. every single day I've been alive, and all of us. Accounts that are coming out of Gaza and Israel are horrific and hardly bearable to read, hear, or watch. I cannot imagine the suffering and fear and profound loss for those that are directly affected, both over there and for those living here who have lost loved ones or have family that are unaccounted for. Compounding this is a splintering division amongst people and communities throughout the U.S., anger, outrage, the taking of sides, using their voices, protesting, as is their constitutional and human right. But there's also brewing hate, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, violence, and murder. As is occurring throughout the U.S., there have been requests that our elected body now demand a ceasefire. Like everyone, I have a deeply emotional reaction to what is going on, but the request is of me as a counselor in my elected role as a representative. To help focus my thinking, I've tried to reflect on this request purely from the standpoint of, does this fall within the purview of the council? I see our scope of responsibility as extending primarily to our city boundary lines, where it then transitions to our relationships with our jurisdictional partners, both at the county level and as it relates to our legislative districts at the state level. I ran for my seat on the assumption that I would use those key proximities to guide my decision-making related to policy, understanding that my efforts as a counselor should focus on the intersections between our decisions and the financial health of the city, land use, public safety, climate resilience, infrastructure, economic opportunity, affordability, and accessibility. The oath to hold this office is a pledge to uphold the Charter and the state constitution. To help us do that as competently as possible, we receive detailed briefings and contextual information to help guide our decision-making. We hear input from residents and others impacted. We work directly with the city staff who carry out the work of implementing our decisions. Those three things are what give me the ability to cast my votes with confidence. I embrace that as my role in my oath, and based on that, I believe that weighing in on foreign policy with a demand for any type of action not only falls outside the scope of duties that the council is tasked with carrying out, it also opens the door to receiving pressure to make other demands that do not have direct ties to the 8 core areas I mentioned. However, understanding how global events as well as events happening across the country affect our residents and responding to that with compassion is absolutely a part of our job. As I said during the initial conversation that we had a couple weeks ago, it's our responsibility to state as clearly as possible for all to hear that hate, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism have no place or space in our public buildings, public events, economic development, or any other space where our officials, city staff and crews, or officers intersect with residents and visitors. Shining light on that and generally ensuring that we continue to craft policy decisions that support an environment where residents feel safe is a core part of our oath of office, and in my opinion, that's where we should focus our efforts. So, how we do that in a way where people feel that the council supports them in what they're feeling right now, I think we can talk about that. As far as a resolution that calls for any sort of global policy, I can't support that. But that's my piece. Thank you very, very much for letting me share that.
While you were talking, when you mentioned this resolution, there's something that we did alongside this resolution around the same time. And I'll read it, and I think, if that's the direction you want to go, I don't think there's 4 votes to do a ceasefire resolution, but if what we're hearing you say is you want the community to know that things are going. This is a statement that I helped draft with staff. It was an open letter at the time that we wrote. It said, it's an open letter from the Beaverton community from your elected city government. In this time of uncertainty and great polarization in our country, the city of Beaverton strongly reaffirms our commitment to being a safe and welcoming community for all. We vigorously reject hateful rhetoric and acts of violence and intimidation based on identity and declare that it has no place in our city. Beaverton is proud to be known as one of the safest and most diverse cities in our region. With strong neighborhoods, schools, civic participation, we have become a vibrant and growing community that has home to families of all backgrounds. We recognize that we are deeply saddened and that members of our community are currently feeling targeted and fearful, particularly communities of color, immigrants and refugees, Muslims, women, and LGBTQI people. It pains us to hear that children are experiencing confusion and fear, that loved ones and families may be separated and adults from their adults, and that children are no longer safe in our community. Now more than ever, we must come together as a community to build unity and respect across differences. We need to reach out to those most vulnerable among us to show love and support. We must stand up to the messages of hate and acts of hostility so that everyone can feel a sense of safety and belonging. As your city government, we have worked hard to foster inclusivity and build shared identity that emphasizes the strengths of all that call Beaverton home. City leadership remains dedicated to these goals and values and to work tirelessly to make them a reality. We commit to continuing to lead on the local level to ensure that Beaverton remains an actively welcoming community. And we ask everyone to join us in that effort. And it was signed at the time by Mayor Doyle, myself as the council president, Council Betty Bodie, Mark Fagan, and Mark Sansucci. And so if we want to think about a statement like that to talk about our values, I could support that. I think I am inclined to not support a resolution that is at my first look at this. I just don't think it fits. When I think about what our community wants to hear from us, I think they want to hear that they feel safe and welcome and all of the things that we lead on. And so I could share this statement as well. I pulled it. We sent it in the paper and did a press release on it when we wrote it at the time. Does anyone have any other thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I don't think I can support any foreign policy resolutions at this point. It's a struggle for me. People who know me know how I feel about this very personally. But I also feel like that's coming from John, not Councilor Duggar. And I don't think people elected me to have an opinion on foreign policy and to direct, and more specifically, to make broad statements representative of the government of the people of Beaverton. To be frank, I'm not qualified to do that. And I don't think I am.
Yeah, can I respond if you're done?
I'm not done.
Okay.
I don't think I am. I can speak on behalf of myself. And I don't think any of us, to be frank, are qualified to speak on foreign policy. If anyone, maybe the mayor, because she served in the U.S. Army. It was the Army, right? I don't want
to be
get the
clear,
branch wrong.
I'm an expert in the war in which I served, not every war on the
But I'm
planet.
just saying,
Yeah.
like a stretch, right? And so I'm not willing to endorse even things that I agree with in foreign policy because it feels like it's on behalf of the people of Beaverton, and I don't know how they feel. I haven't seen any poll. I haven't seen this. This isn't even a moral question to me. This is what's our lane, and I just don't feel comfortable doing that for me. If there's 4 votes, you guys can sign it without me, but I don't feel like I'm comfortable with this.
So I'm actually not looking for a resolution around a foreign policy. This was more a statement around standing up for anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. This is a draft purely because I'm simply looking for you all to give that feedback to the city. While I have been public about wanting to support a ceasefire, I acknowledge that that is maybe not the city council's lane, and I support that. I am completely supportive of your stance of not supporting foreign policy. I would never want to put you all in a position that would make you uncomfortable. Unfortunately, because we don't have sort of a process for bringing resolutions today, this is very much a draft. So the direction is more like, what would you like to see if you were to say something? Is it similar to what Councillor Tivnon shared? Is it similar to what Mayor Beatty shared? I think the first 3 paragraphs, which are from a previous proclamation, were ones I really liked. There are some specific incidents of hate that I think are appropriate that are happening in America that are worth mentioning. They don't have to be these ones. So I am not asking you all to support any foreign policy. I'm not asking you to support a ceasefire. I'm simply asking for us to make some sort of statement to our community similar to the one Mayor Beatty read. And this doesn't have to be the draft. Obviously, because this has become a bit related to our community specifically and some of the Jewish folks that I've been speaking with, felt like if I couldn't author some of it, that it wouldn't feel right, because this was so personal. So if you feel comfortable directing Sia to say, we want something, we're just not sure what it is, and give her that direction, I know that that would really mean a lot to me.
But I don't think that is direction. I don't think we can tell staff to like bring us something when the council's not in agreement. I mean, anything could be an option if we want it. I'm just saying that that is how the council has navigated in spaces in the past around, and this is when the threat of taking kids from the border with the Trump administration, and so it was very not similar, but very like policy issue that we couldn't directly impact, and how were we going to navigate in a space when we didn't have like foreign policy expertise, and it was more of like, here's a letter, this is, and I mean, you know, the people that have signed on that, you could imagine trying to create language in which the five of us agree on is pretty spectacular. So, go ahead.
I would be in full support of taking language that was applicable at the time that that was released and updating it to reflect current conditions in our city. It goes to exactly what you were talking about, of adding the language safe into our goals and priorities, and just doubling down on what Beaverton stands for, which is to make sure that everyone who lives in it and visits it feels safe when they're here. And I recognize that bringing this before us is, it's not an easy thing to do right now. You put yourself out there and you can get attacked very easily online talking about anything to do with this. So I appreciate it. It's very tough when there's some of the stuff that's melded in with this conversation is around, like you said, like kind of being out of our lane when it comes to policy decisions. But as far as the spirit of it, I'm in support of that.
Council President.
I would agree. I think that if we could take like the open letter and update to talk a bit about make it relevant, right? It's not a copy paste because it is a different situation, but I would be in support of that. I want our community to know that we love them and care for them, and that we hold them with care, right? We sit up here with care for them. We think about them with every decision that we make, and I think writing a letter to our community would feel like very heartfelt and genuine to me. And I agree. Thank you for pushing us to have uncomfortable conversations. I'd rather not, in all honesty. But I think it's good that we can kind of have, and I know it's hard in this forum to have an open conversation. So thank you for helping us get to, hey, I just want us to say something, right? So, and thank you for bringing something for us to react to.
Councilor Kimmy.
Yes, I agree with all the councilors. It's a tough place for me just because I grew up in that part of the world. I've been through the war. I was there when Iraqis came into Kuwait overnight. I saw people die. I saw a person hung from the crane 100 feet above the ground. So it does hit me, and I know the person who got impacted, their family members passed away personally from the DAP years. So yes, I do want to say something, but it's conflicted because of my role. This is the time that I have to wear a city councilor hat, and we have to be inclusive of everyone. We have to be careful where we navigate, and I agree with making some kind of open letter to the public. Because I do worry about where every time something like this happens, then we are forced to make some kind of decision. Where during the COVID era, there was Asian hate, that a lot of elderly Asian male and female got brutally attacked in the streets, especially in New York and San Francisco. And I don't remember our city council taking any action because we were not vocal enough, and that's our tradition and culture. But so I love to see an open letter if possible, and inclusive as possible. That we are together fighting any hate among us and our residents. And I'll support something from that. I don't know who's gonna write, but who's gonna read? No, not me. So I don't know if you're a good writer, but somebody has to, but I'm not doing it.
We
so.
did author that letter, but thanks, Edward.
So I'll support that, and I really do feel you, but that's my position. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I knew this would happen because the goal was just to get it to be a discussion, but we made it a discussion. So like the first 3 paragraphs and the last paragraph were like the things that I really wanted to see in a letter. And it's just a page. Sorry, it was double printed. But so it's the first 3 paragraphs borrowed from probably the resolution that Mayor read. And the last one, that is the kind of language I was looking for. Again, I think CO was looking for some direction. So, if we could mix that in with maybe some of what the mayor said, I know that would certainly go a long way for me.
All right, I think.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, go
Thanks. No, that's okay. No, I appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts too. I've spoken publicly in my own personal capacity on some of this too, and I've been spending more of my time having more private, one-on-one conversations with community members, and that's been a way to bring some healing and build some bridges in the community. And I think that's where I've been doing a little bit better in my own local role here. I would support a letter similar to the one that the mayor shared. I can't say too much about this specific resolution just because I haven't reviewed it yet. But I think it would be helpful if we write a letter to include some language about resources for people who are experiencing hate or are feeling in danger. What can the city do? What does the city have available, or what nonprofits are out there, community organizations that can be a source of support for people? That's all I've got.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. We're about to be smacked in a lesson of those that want us to call for a ceasefire. This will not be good enough. And those of us who want to stay out of it are going to be angry that we've made any statement. And those in the field that do the work, or if we miss an organization, are going to be upset. And so, I mean, I just think I want to warn you, my 11 years here has taught me that, like, when we do this, this will cause irate from both sides. This will be viewed as milquetoast. And that's what happened too when we wrote the letter. But I think for me, I want to support Councilor Hassan in what she's trying to accomplish. So I think we could have CO work, and then I would volunteer Nathan on my team to work with the PIO as well to kind of combine some of this language together for us to consider next week. And maybe we can point towards like a landing page on the city website, so it's not lost in the letter and make it look like, we're at a leaflet at a free clinic. But I think we can add a piece to the bottom within a landing page on the city website, perhaps with some resources. I think that could be a good compromise. I think what we have to do together in the spirit of compromise is what we did tonight. And I think this will be a good place when we could review the language, and a few of us can't work on it, so I'll include you into that circle. It won't violate our public meeting law to include Councilor Hassan in the drafting of the language. Does that feel like a good place? Okay. All right. Any other council new business? This better be good. I just felt like I went playing Edward. Don't screw it up.
I want to end it on a happy note.
Okay, good.
Last year, I had a hard time freezing my ass when we are lighting the tree. And it's this Friday, so make sure you test it.
It's okay.
Okay.
Also, as a reminder, Councilor Kimmy came in a matching outfit with his wife. It's the only time I've ever met her in all the years I've known you, so it may or may not have been your actual wife. So we will see everyone on Friday.